Hey everybody, Jimmy Smith back, this time to discuss the incredibly frustrating efforts of the UFC to kind of put together a preliminary White House card for next year. The difficulties they're having. The problem is, right now, I'm not even talking politically. I'm talking the nuts and bolts of promoting a card based around this a patriotic American fight card. When you have one American champion, that's Kayla Harrison at 135. We don't know if she'll be champion then, but she's certainly not right now a fighter you could build an entire card around. So what they're doing is kind of going to the well of fighters who have been big in the past but are unreliable now. Let me start off with some parallel advice here. Is a lot of people ask me about becoming a broadcaster, right? I want to do what you do. How do I do it? And how do I get into broadcasting? And how do I make a career and all that stuff? And I say, number one is be reliable. And people look at me like I'm crazy when I say that. I say, show up on time. Make sure you're prepped. Blah, 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 blah. Go to the production meetings and pay attention and know what you're talking about. And people look at me like I'm crazy, but the number of people who have blown opportunities because they weren't reliable, they weren't on time. ProBox TV, we did a show a little while back where they had a ton of fights on the same card and they wanted to give us a break by putting kind of a different team for like the undercard. Well, the guy they had for color didn't show up. He called the promoter and said, I'm at the building, and he was a half hour late. And he's like, how do I get in? And he's like, you're not getting in. It's over for you. Go home. Well, that guy's never going to work again because people ask around about your reliability. If you aren't reliable, you're not getting any work. Ta-da. All right, that's step number one. The problem the UFC is faced right now with a bunch of fighters, or a couple fighters, Jon Jones, Conor McGregor. Of course, the idea of Ronda Rousey getting back into MMA is a totally different ball of wax. She doesn't want to be on the White House card. Anyway, would she do it for enough money? Probably. I don't know. Once again, not reliable, right? I wouldn't bet my house on it. And what you have to understand promotionally is the amount of money and time and resources that a promotion puts behind a card, right? Conor McGregor is going to be there. Jon Jones is going to be there. You're betting the farm on this. You're betting your house that this works out. And the problem is they have a bunch of fighters that I wouldn't bet my house on, or a couple fighters, really. So you only have Kayla Harrison as an American champion. Could she be on the card? Certainly I would put her on there if I could, if she's still champion. Good looking, strong, athletic. She checks off all the boxes, very articulate. I really like Kayla a lot. If you've never met her, she's just a sweet person. Very good interview, but she's tough. And she kind of fits the bill, right? She looks good. Everything works out about her. She's a potential star, but she's just getting started in her UFC run, right? She's not young in fight years, but she's just getting started. She certainly hasn't made superstar status yet. Now, the names that everybody's talking about, Jon Jones, got to start with him, and Tom Aspinall. Guys, Tom Aspinall said publicly he did 4 camps getting ready for Jon Jones. Stopped and started 4 different camps. Guys, you're out of pocket for all of that. Okay? Maybe the UFC gave you some money, right? Maybe the UFC went, okay, we know you're getting ready for Jon Jones. Here's basically a stipend to pay for your training. You know, here's a little bit of money to keep you going. I don't know whether or not they did that. I haven't heard anything publicly about that. Well, they certainly could have, because Jon Jones is an unreliable guy at the last year of his career. He's never been particularly reliable, by the way. So if you're Tom Aspinall, 4 times I got ready for this guy. 4 times I got pulled out from under me. I'm not doing it again. I'm not doing it. So he's moving on with the Ciryl Gane fight. I think he blows Ciryl Gane out of the water. I've never had a ton of faith in Ciryl Gane. I think he was overhyped in the beginning, but whatever. You would want, typically, in a big card like this, heavyweights are great. They're exciting. They hit hard. It's great. All right. It's also a crossover kind of card. It'll get a lot of hype. Heavyweights are easy for everyone to understand. You don't have to get all the positions you would get in at 125, 135. It's the big guys beating each other up. That's why it's always been entertaining. Ideally, you would want Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall on that card. USA versus England, right? On a White House card. That would be exactly where you want to go. Jon Jones has to understand you don't get credibility back with a promotion, right? This was also not something out of his control, meaning, hey, I pissed hot for a test. I got in a car accident. I'm under indictment. It's his fault, but he didn't choose to do that. I know that's a little confusing, but the idea that this is totally, he retired rather than fight Tom Aspinall. It wasn't some legal issue. It wasn't some medical issue. It wasn't some drug issue. It was, I chose to retire. Screw you. Screw the fight you guys wanted. Bye. I'm out of here. To come back and go, wait a second, I want to be on the White House card. I think Dana White is 100% correct, going, hey, we put time and effort into you for a freaking year. We're not going back there. You aren't reliable. I need reliability as a promoter. And Tom Aspinall, to his part, going, I got ready for you 4 times. I'm not doing it again. If UFC called and went, Jon Jones is ready to go for a White House card, would you believe it? If you're Tom Aspinall, I wouldn't. You'd have to have a backup heavyweight, but that backup heavyweight probably won't be an American, which is what you want for the White House card. It won't have the cachet of Jon Jones. So you're up against it either way. Now, at the end of the day, does Tom Aspinall have a choice? Not really. If the UFC went, it's Jon Jones and that's it, the power structure of the UFC and MMA is, you fight who they tell you to fight. Tom Aspinall didn't really have a choice but to get ready for Jon Jones 4 times. So he can complain publicly all he wants and he can bitch and da-da-da, but contractually, he can't go anywhere else and do anything else. So if they win, it's Jon Jones, he can complain and say, I won't do it, but I mean, what are you going to do? Waste more of your prime? Tom Aspinall is a guy right now in the heavyweight division who should be on everyone's lips as a pound-for-pound guy right now. And he's been so inactive because of Jon Jones that, he's kind of fallen off the radar a little bit. Where when I talk about active guy, oh yeah, Tom Aspinall. Because he just hasn't fought in forever because of waiting for frickin' Jon Jones. So then he's getting back on track with Ciryl Gane and what? To go back into the Jon Jones lunacy? It would be tough, to say the least. That would be your perfect main event, but I wouldn't have faith in Jon Jones. Now, speaking of fighters in whom I have no faith, Conor McGregor, of course, wanting to get on the White House card, he's a different category of unreliable in that I don't believe a White House card or any kind of card gets a guy who hasn't fought in years, who never fought Michael Chandler, who said, if you remember a couple years ago, it was, it's done, it's going to be announced soon, me and Mike, the date, and da-da-da, and it never happened. Then he had a toe injury. We never heard anything about him coming back after that. The guy doesn't really want to fight anymore, in my opinion. I've thought that for years. He just doesn't want to do this anymore. He wants the attention of, I'm coming back, I'm doing this, I'm in the fight world. I don't have to actually go through a camp and stay clean and cut out the party and all the stuff you need to do. Once again, reliability and dedication. Conor doesn't have that anymore. How could he? With the money he has and the lifestyle he's living and the trouble he's getting in all the time, how can you find us? And also, I was about to say, how do you find 3 months to train? He would take 2 months to get in camp shape before 3 months. Really, it takes 6 months to take a fighter from the couch, essentially, to fight shape enough to get in there. I mean, I don't think Conor has a lot left. I really don't. I think he's so far removed from the Conor we saw be a double champ and all these things. I think even if he did everything right, father time catches up to everybody, first off. Secondly, ring rust gets tougher as you get older. A 23-year-old in their prime can take time off and come back and still have a career. Conor, with the years he's had, and they've been rough years, I don't see him coming back and being a shadow of his former self. Now, it recently came out, he said, I'm going to fight Chandler at the White House card. That fight doesn't... I wasn't thrilled about that fight, whatever it was, 2 or 3 years ago. I wasn't thrilled about it. The idea that he's going to say, now I'm really going to do it, once again, much like Jon Jones, yeah, you said that before and it never happened. If I'm Dana White, do I really get behind this guy? Do I really promote the hell out of the return of Conor McGregor again? To have it blow up in my face and I look like an idiot. That's tough. Now, with Jon Jones, at least physically, I don't worry about him as much. Is he out partying? Probably, but this is a guy, when you hear stories about him, was out partying before and mopping the floor with guys. So he's one of those guys that even an 80% Jon Jones is pretty damn good. Conor, the variables get magnified. We haven't seen him look good in forever. We haven't seen him win in forever. We haven't seen him in fight shape in forever. So not only is will you show up a huge issue for everyone involved, are you going to show up? Will you have some kind of difficulty now that you're not running for president, which is a totally different thing in Ireland, by the way. But this idea that not only will you not be there, if you are there, are you going to be a shadow of your former self? Now, the other side of the issue is fighters are like presidents. You can't just return it, right? Once you tune in and the person sucks, you can't return it, right? Now, the pay-per-view model's done, so it's not going to cost you any money. But when you, back in the day, would pay for a pay-per-view, and you go out there and the fighter would lay an egg, you can't then get your money back, right? You can't return it once you bought it. So as long as Conor and Jon Jones get into the octagon and a bell rings, it will get eyeballs. If either guy, more than likely Conor, looks absolutely awful, once again, you can't return it. You already watched it. So the point of Dana White is getting both of those guys in the octagon, bell rings, referee says fight. Once you get that, they can go ahead and look terrible. And it's more a reflection on the fighter than the promotion. Okay, we put them in there. It's up to them to fight. So if you're Dana White, you have to get the guys in there. Conor, I think, is as bad as it would be putting faith again in Jon Jones. I think it's even worse putting faith in Conor. Conor will get you right there. He'll get you right day before, and there's some kind of problem with the guy. Jon Jones, as long as he legally stays out of trouble, as long as he chemically stays out of trouble, once he's signed on the dotted line, he'll probably be there. Remember, they never got him to sign on the dotted line against Aspinall. If they can get him to sign on the dotted line, it's more likely it happens. But folks, without an American headliner or a huge star headliner, because, Conor McGregor's a huge star even if he's not American, but he'd probably fight an American in Michael Chandler, who will do the flag waving stuff and blah, 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 whatever. It's tough. And right now, the UFC has no American champions outside of Kayla Harrison. And going through my mental Rolodex, I don't remember a time when we had this. I don't remember a time when there was not an American champion. When you look at the problem leading into this as well, not only the lack of Americans, 2025 has been a tough year for MMA. It has been. We all wanted the Jon Jones fight. It didn't happen. A lot of people wanted Conor. I didn't have faith in it, but some people did. I didn't. The momentum going into a potential 2026, 250 years of America card, the momentum leading up to it has not been great. Now, could that change before next year? It could, but you have to think in terms of fights. No big star is going to have more than one fight between now and then. Maybe two, okay? And I don't see anyone having that momentum right now that they're one or two away from being a star in the UFC. There might be some, right? You're only as good as your last performance. But right now, the next numbered UFC we have is Ankalaev versus Pereira 2, a fight we really didn't want. Or I wanted it because I thought, Ankalaev probably had the skills to beat Pereira. But it's not a huge fight the fans were screaming about. The guy they didn't want to win, Ankalaev, ended up winning. I don't see the rematch working out any differently. So the momentum heading into 2026 simply isn't very strong, and you want it strong heading into a card like that, and we'll see how it works. But the problems of reliability are plaguing the UFC right now when it comes to its stars, and the lack of American champions is catching up to them right when they don't want it to. But we'll see how it goes. If there's any more news, I'll let you guys know. Appreciate you all watching. Talk to you soon.